Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering woke Hollywood panic as senior vice president says they discriminate against white men. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Okay, so Hollywood Disney executive who actually came on to Disney from Fox before the Disney Fox acquisition has been caught on tape with a journalist sent by James O'Keefe talking about how, yes, Disney does clearly discriminate against white men in their hiring, especially for management positions, but they do discriminate in general. It's very clear. He says it. We'll go over some of the things he actually says, but this is smoking gun evidence for a lawsuit. Does this affect all of Hollywood? Yes, it does. Does this affect Disney? Yes, it affects Fox, Disney. It affects the entire Disney company. This doesn't mean that all of a sudden tomorrow, Disney with its approximately 200,000 employees is going to turn around and act completely differently. They couldn't do that even if they wanted to. That's like turning around a battleship. But it does mean it makes for some great evidence for lawsuits. It makes for some great evidence for EEOC complaints. And that's something America First Legal has been doing a lot of, Stephen Miller's organization. I can guarantee you there are numerous conservative legal organizations like America First Legal, like Edward Blum's organization, that are no doubt looking at this video very carefully and making strategic plans. The executive who made this statement has now taken a leave of absence from Disney. Of course, he took a leave of absence from Disney. He probably will not be continuing with the company. This is a major blow against the company. Now, he made these statements in a private conversation with someone that he did not need to make. And yeah, people do talk shop when they're on a date or they're in a private moment. They certainly don't think they're being recorded. People try to sound interesting. But of course, what he says rings as true. And if you're part of Disney's management team and they know they've been committing these crimes, essentially, discriminating against people, not giving them opportunities that they deserve based on merit, based on really putting in the work and showing that they can perform on a job. But this is extraordinary evidence. So do they want to continue with this guy? Are they going to keep giving this guy some work? He's actually a senior guy. We'll look at a little bit of his background. It's important to understand, like, he's not just like some guy in human resources who's throwing around some random ideas. He's the kind of guy that would know. But no, I don't think he's got much of a future with Disney anymore. And really, it serves him right. I do feel bad. Obviously, he's a white male. He says in his comments himself that he was discriminated against for future opportunities for moving up within the company. But he is part of an organization that he is well aware is doing the wrong thing. He knows he's participated in an organization that was breaking civil rights law. He's not an innocent, and he should be held accountable for whatever it is that he did. Sure, he did these things to benefit himself, to bank extra cash, to have a great pension. You know, that's great. You want to have a career. But when you're part of something that you know is wrong, and he's sophisticated enough to have known it was wrong, you can't just bank the money and not expect to run the risk of being held accountable. He can say he was just following orders, but that doesn't make it okay. From the Daily Wire, undercover O'Keefe video, Disney senior vice president says the company discriminates against white men. Also from the Daily Wire, Disney's not so secret anti-white agenda. And he has taken a leave of absence. Well, it's easier than firing him. Disney senior vice president takes leave of absence after a date with undercover reporter for James O'Keefe. Yes, this guy has personally been discriminated against. Yes, he's a hard worker, and according to Deadline, he's really sharp as a tack. This goes all the way back to 2016, when he got his position that he is still in as senior vice president over at Fox. But just like everyone else, he needs to be held accountable. This is from Deadline from 2016 when he got his position, Michael Giordano up to Senior Vice President of Business Affairs at 20th Century Fox TV. Understand who this guy is. Michael Giordano was promoted to Senior Vice President of Business Affairs at 20th Century Fox TV from Vice President. In his new role, Giordano is responsible for negotiating and overseeing key business terms for development and production, above-the-line talent, program license, rights and format deals, as well as writer-producer agreements for pilots and series produced by the company. His promotion was announced by Howard Kurtzman, president of business affairs. So he's had 8 years in this position. Maybe he hasn't been able to move up as much as he would have liked to move up in the company. But when you're negotiating with above-the-line talent, for example, just that alone, that's negotiating with stars that work on the TV show. This is not low-end stuff. Senior vice president is a very important position. He's the key that turns the lock. He understands what's been going on over at Disney. And from the Daily Wire, Disney's not-so-secret anti-white agenda. If you've been watching any significant amount of Disney content over the past few years, there's a question that's probably crossed your mind. As you gazed upon two lesbian mothers in the kids' show, Young Jedi Adventures, or the non-binary Jedi in Tales of the Empire, or the gay kisses in Lightyear and the Rise of Skywalker, or the communist lesbian witches in The Acolyte, or the prominent trans character in Baymax, or the non-binary Lake character in Elemental, or the gay moment in Endgame, or the purple gay Cyclops police officer in Onward, or the first ever biracial gay cartoon character in Strange World. You might have caught yourself thinking, what the hell is going on inside this company? If this is what they're producing as entertainment for tens of millions of people, how dysfunctional are the inner workings of Disney if they're so fixated on sexuality and race that they have to ram so-called marginalized identities into every orifice of their films and streaming shows? What would it be like to actually work at a place like this? Now we know. James O'Keefe, formerly the head of Project Veritas and now the CEO of OMG Media, provides an exclusive window into the inner workings of Disney. One of O'Keefe's undercover operatives, he likes to call them spies, recorded an intimate conversation with a senior vice president at the company named Michael Giordano. And it's simultaneously an incredibly shocking piece of footage as well as everything you'd expect it to be. Giordano appears to admit on multiple occasions that Disney discriminates against job applicants on the basis of their skin color and gender. According to Giordano, the company will look at a white man and decide because of immutable characteristics that he can't control that he's disqualified from employment. In fact, on at least one occasion, this executive says that Disney higher-ups disqualified a half-black applicant because he didn't look black enough. When civil rights laws were first passed, laws that mandated that businesses stop discriminating on the basis of race, there were quite a few businesses in the country that had to close. In some cases, the owners simply didn't want to serve black customers or hire black employees. In other cases, the businesses did attempt to integrate, but their clientele wouldn't stand for it. They wanted to see certain races excluded from the whole operation, and when that was no longer allowed, they stopped patronizing the business entirely. After watching the footage for the first time, it's not hard to see how a major entertainment juggernaut like Disney could someday meet the same fate as all those businesses that crumbled in the aftermath of the civil rights movement. If what this executive is saying is true, and we have no reason to think it's not true, then there's a very strong case to be made that Disney is flagrantly and systematically violating civil rights law. In this country, in pretty much every case, businesses are not allowed to deny employment on the basis of race or gender. Race or gender cannot even be one of the reasons why an employee is promoted or rejected, or hired or fired. And Michael Giordano appears to realize that, which is why he says on tape that Disney is likely to face a massive lawsuit in the near future. Will the law actually be enforced against Disney? That remains to be seen. We all know that for the most part, civil rights law works in one direction. But in this case, there's a Disney executive saying explicitly on tape that in his estimation, the company discriminates on the basis of race or gender. And as of now, the only response from Disney has been that Michael Giordano has taken down his LinkedIn page. They haven't put out any kind of explanation for why one of their senior executives would say that a company is systematically discriminating against white people. I'm going to also point out this senior executive position, this senior vice president position, is not a small position. He's part of the Fox division, but clearly he's reporting directly to the president. Not the president of Disney, the president of his division. It's not like he's somewhere in human resources functioning as an assistant, and there's of course nothing wrong with that kind of a job, but This is a senior role. This is not a small role, and that's why senior vice president is part of his title, and it has been since 2016. He's big enough to have been mentioned in Deadline 8 years ago. That's how you know this is not a small thing. This is a very big problem for Disney, and it only gets worse when you look closely at the content they've been putting out lately. It certainly seems to back up everything this executive says, which is that Disney is a weirdly race-obsessed and anti-white company. From the Daily Wire, undercover O'Keefe video, Disney's senior vice president says the company discriminates against white men. An undercover video captured by the O'Keefe Media Group shows a senior vice president at the Walt Disney Company saying that he was told by co-workers in the Human Resources Department that the corporation discriminates against white men. Michael Giordano, a senior vice president and team lead at the Walt Disney Company, said the corporation discriminates against white men on account of their race and sex in O'Keefe's video. The report comes as the company has embraced far-left policies on gender and race, going so far as to embed them in their movies and television shows. Quote, I have friends in HR and I have friends in other divisions, and they're like, look, nobody else is going to tell you this, Mike, but they're not considering any white males for the job, according to Mike Giordano himself on the undercover video. He also went on to say that being a white male limits his upward mobility within the company. Quote, as far as Disney's concerned, I'm a white male and that's not who they're looking to promote at the moment. And we know he was promoted to Senior Vice President of Business Affairs at 20th Century Fox TV in 2016, and that's his job to this day. In 2024, he has not been promoted. Giordano went on to allege that one biracial person was passed over for a promotion because he didn't look African American enough. In the video, Giordano alleges that Disney attempts to prevent lawsuits by using euphemistic terminology. The company allegedly uses code words and buzzwords that are used to explain what they're looking for, so it's not like a legally actionable thing. The allegations against Disney come as a wide array of companies have been caught discriminating against white and often Asian job applicants. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey announced a lawsuit against tech giant IBM over a policy of financially penalizing executives who did not recruit enough people from underrepresented groups, accusing the company of discriminating against whites, Asians, and men. Another Daily Wire investigation revealed that NASCAR hosted 2 different internships that explicitly listed certain racial backgrounds as program requirements, only omitting white people. A law professor told the Daily Wire that the program requirements were blatantly illegal. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.